Your mind is for having ideas and not holding them. That is one of the most famous of David Allen's quotes, and David Allen is of course the creator of the Getting Things Done methodology. If you've read any of his books, you'll know that getting things done is not intended to be a quick fix. What it is a system that helps you to commit to appropriately engaging with your world. In order to do that, you need to know what your projects are, what your areas of responsibility are, what the next actions are for these things, and ultimately, you need a system that you trust to hold this information for you so that your mind can let go. In this video, I'm going to show you what such a system could look like in Capacities. We're going to start with a small amount of setup. You only have to do this once, and then you can use it long term. I'm starting in the Capacity settings in the Task Management tab, and I'm going to apply the Getting Things Done preset for task statuses. This is what they are, and you'll see as we use them throughout the video. Once you've done that, we can create the first task. I'm going to click New at the top and Task here, and I'm going to capture a task I know I need to do, which is edit this video. When I created my first task, this tab popped up in the left side. You will come here a lot. We also have these other built-in sections which can help you zoom in on a certain subsection of your tasks for more focus. For getting things done, possibly the most important section is your next actions. We have a section built in for this, so you want to hover over this line here until you see the plus, and then come to this drop down and choose this option where the status is next up. I'm going to rename this to next actions and pull it to the second position there so I can get to it right away. Again, as you go through this video, this is going to populate. You'll also see some other section options in here as well. So if you want your Sunday maybe list or what you're waiting for, you can also add those. Again, to rename, just click on that tab and hover over this edit. So I've added those three sections now, and we will come back to tasks, but in getting things done, if something that you intend to do is going to take more than one action to complete, David Allen would consider that a project, because in some way your mind has to keep an open tab about that broader context for the task. And the idea of creating a project is that your mind doesn't need to hold that information, your project list can. To add projects to Capacities, let's come to the settings and come to this object type section here and click Create. Here I'm going to click on our project template and I'll show you what that looks like. You can have one note per project, so for me this would be this very video. This comes with a status property as well, so I can say that this project is in progress. Much like we have the sections at the top of your tasks, you can also do the same for projects. So if I click on that plus, I can add my in progress projects. I will also add my on hold projects, and I'm going to add this empty one. You'll see why as we get to the weekly review portion of the video. Now you may have seen that when I added that project template, there were also some other ones. I'd also recommend adding the area template, and we can create an area. This is an area of responsibility. There's a core difference to making your heads between area and projects. Areas are open, they're ongoing. The tasks that are connected to them probably recur, but they don't move towards completion, whereas a project is the opposite. It's a sequence of tasks and you are aiming for a completed thing at the end of it. By having separate notes for your areas and for your projects, it's cognitively very clear to you what type of task and what type of actions you need to take. From our template list, we can also add people. This is important because your tasks or your projects might depend on or include people, and Capacities can hold that information for you. Additionally, if you're somebody with a lot of meetings, you might want to connect people and meetings together, and you'll see that we have a template for that as well. Now, the way that Capacities works, just like we saw with the tasks and the projects, when you click on these buttons in the left sidebar, you will see all of the people in your space, all of the areas, all of the meetings. There's a great home base for each of those different types of notes. Now that the core setup is done, it's time to actually add some more tasks and show you how it all works. So I've already added the fact that I need to edit this video. I'm going to add a few more. To add a new task, you've got a few options. You can click New wherever you see it. So here, here, and here. And there is also this plus icon in this left sidebar, which you can always access. You can also access that with Command Shift and T on Mac or Control Shift T on Windows, wherever you are in Capacities. Okay, I've created a range of tasks here, and if we have a look at them, I can kind of group them. The first two tasks here are about my video project. Many of them are about my house renovation project. One is about home maintenance and one is a random one-off task that I need to do today. I have all this information floating in my head. It does not need to be there. Capacities can hold it for me. So let's take a look at the project-related tasks first. You saw that I already created a project about this video. If I search for that video here and then click on it while holding down the shift key, I can open the tasks and the project side by side and I can show you how they work together. This video is connected to this project, but Capacities doesn't know that yet, only my brain does. To bring them together, all I need to do is click here in this context property and click on that video. When I do that, watch what happens to my project note. That task is automatically appended to that project and I get a task tab at the top, which allows me just to zoom in on my tasks. Now that is helpful because as I am going through my projects, I have this note to do that project work in. So the way that this project looks in my personal space is I have my script and I have all of the tasks that I have completed thus far to get me to the point where I'm sat down filming this video today. I'll add in some of that content so you can see a bit more how it looks. Because Capacities is actually a note-taking app with tasks rather than a task manager with somewhere to write brief comments, your reference material can live alongside your tasks. So as you are working through a project, if you think of a task, it is as simple as creating one here. This is a shortcut, by the way, for adding one when you're typing. And you can just have it live with your project. And when it comes to taking actions, you can, of course, just rely on your next action list, which I'll show you shortly. Or you can simply strip away all of the extra work that you have done and come into that task tab. You can also filter it just by the open tasks to help that focus as well. So your reference material doesn't have to live separate to your project list or to your next action list. With Capacities, it's all built in. So I've contextualized that task, but of course I also know that I made another task for this project as well. It's floating around my head. I can now take it out of my head and put it into this project. And because I've already created it, I could just press that at to search and link to that task. Again, that's updated. And if I open that task, you can see that that context property has been filled in as well. Now, going back to this list, I can also see I have my home renovation project and a lot of tasks around that. I'll close this so we can focus on a new project. So I will create a new one called home renovation. So I can search for my bathroom fitter. I'll just continue to add these tasks. I've also added in some of my home renovation project so you can see how my reference material is living amongst my tasks. Everything is out of my head and in Capacities where I need it because I'm thinking about my home renovation, and in one place I can see the things I've collected about it and the actions that I need to take. So at this point I've taken a look at all of the tasks that are related to my projects. We've just got a couple that are left. This one, watering the grass, is obviously related to my home maintenance area, and it's also a recurring task. I can put that into Capacities by saying that I need to do it today, and it needs to repeat every day. When you complete one of your recurring tasks, it gives you this helpful stats section so you can see how consistently you're able to maintain the area of responsibility that you have. Because I'm giving it a date, that has now removed itself from the inbox, and I'll see it in that scheduled tab. I'll also see it in the recurring tab here. And then finally, the only task we haven't looked at yet is this one for posting mum's birthday card. This isn't related to a project, it's just a one-off task that I need to do. I need to do it today, and I'm going to give it a status of next up. When you give things a date in Capacities, it will show up in your central calendar, which can be a very helpful place to work out of, but you'll see that in other videos. So at this point, my inbox has a few things in here, and they're all related to projects I'm going to be working on. With getting things done, you technically don't have to create the task that you know you have to do. You're thinking more precisely about your specific next up tasks. But because your reference material and your tasks live together in Capacities, you can have the best of both worlds. If you know a task is coming up, but you know you can't do it yet, you don't have to hold that in your head or put it on a project plan and remember to turn it into a task later. We can just use the inbuilt task statuses. So let's do this project by project. I know that the editing of this video is the next action, so I'm going to click on this little status icon and say next up. I know that until I have done that, I cannot send this video to the marketing team to have a look at, but I know I need to do it. So the simple way to do this is just say I'm waiting for someone, in this case me, to do that task. I can also say that this one is waiting as well, because until I upload my edited video, I can't add anything to a description. So with just a few clicks, I have assigned statuses to my project. We can look at my other project. Small hack is if you click on that label, it will show you all notes of that type. Let's have a look at the home renovation. Just go to the tasks. This is my next action. There's also nothing preventing me from doing this, but of course I can't order the door until I've chosen the colour, so I'll give it that status. This one is blocked until I review the colour card, so I can assign those statuses. If I go back to my task list now, you'll see that my inbox is empty because I have assigned either a date or a status to everything. And you'll also see as I click through these sections that they are now filled out, ready for the tasks that I can actually think about. This next action list is probably where you will spend a lot of your time. So I also wanted to show you that if you wanted a way to visually break this up a little bit, you can add this really handy addition by clicking open and edit. And we're going to group all of these tasks by this option here, backlink objects. That's just a fancy name for where you're finding those tasks. And now what I have is a list of my next actions grouped by the project that they are part of, or in the case of this birthday card, what they're not part of. And that just gives my brain a little bit more context as I approach this project. It also gives you a way to access all of your reference materials for that project in just one click. This is what we call contextualized task management in Capacities. It's super helpful and it works the way that your brain does. But I don't want to ignore a very key aspect of context per the Getting Things Done books, and that is where do you need to be in order to do a task. If you have a restriction on where you can do your task, then you can simply assign a tag. So for example, this task I would need my work laptop for, so I'm going to create a tag called work laptop. Looking at my other actions, I know that I need to be at home to do this because that's where the colour card is, but the others I can do on the go. I'll call that one town because I need to go into the town to do that. When you create these contexts through tags, you will see all of your tasks grouped by their relative context in this tag tab here. If when you're here, you think of another task to do because that contextual reminder has been helpful, you can simply add a task and fill in the properties right where you are. And then when it's time to go out and do your tasks, you've got that one place to look to see what you need to do. When you've checked off a task, it will disappear from this list to keep it up to date for you. So far we've thought about tasks, projects and areas, and you can make one-off tasks or you can make recurring tasks, which is likely what your areas will need. I also wanted to share with you how people work in Capacities, because this essentially makes an agenda list in a very natural way. Let's say I'm out and about and I need to talk to Stefan, who is one of my co-workers, about a problem, and I add that task. I know that that is something I need to do quickly because it is blocking me from doing other things, so I would like to do it today. If I assign a date, as mentioned, I'm going to see it in my calendar and it gives me that focus. However, that's not the only place it's useful to see it. It would also be useful to see it in this next action section, and it's there. But it's also very useful and very easy to link this task to Stefan's note itself, because when I then open the note, I see all of the things I need to talk with him about. And in practice, what this means is you can go about your life and capture tasks as they come up. You can link to who they're related to, and then the next time you speak to them, open this page and you can see everything you need to talk to them about. I've asked Stefan many questions over time, so because I have a big list of things that have already been asked, coming to this open section in this task tab gives me that focus, and in the meeting we can just get through each thing one by one. If you have a lot of meetings as well, you can create a meeting note. You can even link it to your calendar event as well, and you can think about all of the things that you want to add, all of the things that you have to ask, and write it down here. So I could actually link to that task here, and again it's showing up in several places. Capacities is not concerned with perfectly filing away one piece of information to one place. It's much more open. Wherever it can be useful for you to rediscover this task or rediscover this open loop, then you can link to that place in the way that I've shown so far. When I open a task, you can see I've now got more than one piece of context, and that's fine because it's useful in more than one way. This is a very natural way of working, and it is much less stressful than trying to decide the one perfect location for something, because in some way that's giving you a form of decision fatigue. You don't have to work like that. You can let Capacities take away that mental burden to make space for your mind to think about other things, which of course is one of the core premises, if not the core premise, of David Allen's work on getting things done. So far we've explored the kind of basic structure of how getting things done works in Capacities, and how when you capture tasks, you can open them up and decide on their status and decide what they are linked to. That's the kind of day-to-day flow, but of course a huge part of getting things done is the weekly review. You will definitely find your own flow for this, but let me give you a couple of ideas. The aim of the weekly review is utter clarity. You need to know what your open projects are, and you need to know what your next actions are, so you are moving those projects towards completion. I would start in the task inbox, processing any tasks that have come through throughout the week in order to make sure they are showing up on the correct lists. You can also check your list to make sure that the things that are there remain next actions. The things that are on the waiting list are actually still waiting. If they're not, you can just change their status to update the list. You can also check your recurring tasks if you want to have a look for the tasks that you have for your areas of responsibility. It's also really important to check in with the projects, and that is why I created these sections at first. I would first begin with this add status property, because this is how you know that the project notes that you've created throughout the week have the correct status. So this home renovation is in progress, and that means I must have a next action for it. While I'm here, I can check, do I have a next action? Yes, I do. Excellent. I can move on to look at my other active project. Do I have a next up action here? Yes, I do. I can move on. You can also have a look at any projects that you said were on hold, either to update it because there's something that has now moved that status in the week, or to say, actually, no, this is no longer on hold. I can move it into in progress, and I can ensure that it has a next action. If you do this every week, you are refreshing your understanding of the active projects that you have, and that is going to give you clarity. At the end of that process, again, you will have a clear list of next actions. You can either work out of this list directly, or you can assign the dates and work day by day. You'll find your flow as you get used to Capacities, and of course it might change over time. As you'll have seen, this video has mainly focused on the control axis of David Allen's work. This is how you know what your next actions are for the open projects that you have, and how you keep in touch with your system to ensure that it is always up to date. But Capacities can also hold the perspective side as well. You might want to expand on the area notes to talk about the standards that you have. You can even link projects to your areas to bring everything together under that home. You can create monthly plans, yearly plans. Again, because Capacities is a note-taking app, you have that space to write and to think, and then ultimately to transform actionable parts of that thinking into projects with their tasks. This all works within Capacities in this one app. So that is an introduction to getting things done with Capacities. If you have any questions or want to see anything else in more detail, please let me know and I can make more videos or answer questions in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching.